Good morning, everyone. This is Reverend Hung Sher. Welcome to our Sutra lecture today. Happy Guanyin Bodhisattva's birthday to everybody. We passed that this week. And there we go. Okay, good. We are going to begin our Lotus Sutra Guanyin Pusa lecture series. So I wanted to begin with a Dharma request. I'm going to ring the bell 3 times. Everybody is welcome to join me to do a half bow. Here we go. Okay, we did 3.5 bows. Paul, would you like to request Dharma?
Yes, Dharma Master. 恭请大德圣听，为此法会及一切众生，请转妙法轮，教导我们如何了生脱死，离苦得乐，速证无忘。Will the Sangha with great virtue out of compassion for the sake of this assembly and all living beings, please turn the wonderful Dharma will to teach us how to leave suffering and attain bliss and end birth and death, and quickly realize non-birth.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato samma sambuddhassa.
Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one.
Homage to the blessed, noble, and perfectly enlightened one.
Namo sadanto sucedoye ulahudi sanmyao sanputoshe.
Namo satando sucedoye halahati sanmiao sanputoshe.
无上甚深微妙法，百千万劫难遭遇。我今见闻得受持，愿解如来真实义。Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered, even in billions of eons. But now we see it, hear it, and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. All right. Thank you, Paul, for the Dharma request. When you add a new microphone, you also have to adjust your speakers, and I had given my speakers the wrong assignment. So, all right. Good morning again, everyone. We're about to launch into our Fa Hua Jing Pu Men Pin, Guanxin Pusa Pu Men Pin lecture series, the lecture series on the Universal Door chapter. It's a good translation, suitable, good enough translation of the Dharma Flower Sutra, known as the Lotus. And I wanted to say hello to everybody who's here. Welcome. Now, what's going on with the Lotus Sutra? Today is last week we talked about Guanyin Pusa. Today we're going to talk about a chapter from the Fa Hua Jing. Now, the Lotus Sutra is called the King of Sutras. It's one of the most beloved, revered, respected Buddhist texts, a Mahayana text. And there's lots and lots and lots of responses to the Fa Jing that people have done over the years. People, when we encounter the Buddha's teaching, respond in different ways. There are a lot of different, really different responses to the Fa Jing. Some people are drawn to its mystical elements. One of the teachings says the Buddha spoke the Fa Jing Dharma peak, and that he's still speaking it, that he never stopped. Right? Some people hear that and go, "Wow, that's the way I like my sutras, is outside of time and space." Other people hear the very same teachings of the Fa Jing, and they're drawn. Their minds kick in. The left brain says, I want to understand that. How long is it? How many words did the Buddha use? How many chapters are in it? Is there a system to the chapters? Which is the most important chapter? Who is the Buddha speaking to? Who is speaking to the Buddha? And their minds respond intellectually. All right. Well, that's perfectly adequate, uh, predictable, understandable, a welcome response. So other people want to deal with the text uh, in a sacred way. They want to make it magic and powerful. They don't want to understand it intellectually. They're not drawn to it as something they can own and make powerful, make it use for them. They want to surrender to it, the devotional side. People who want to take the sutra and recite the name only. Would you all be surprised to know that numerically, probably the number one way that people respond to the Lotus Sutra is to recite the title, Nam Myoho Renge Kyo, right? The Soka Gakkai approach, the Nichiren was a reformer in Japan, very controversial figure, but that was his response. He said, "Never mind the mystical, never mind the intellectual, just get it to work for you, and you'll get your life will improve." So let's recite the title of the sutra. Right? Lots and lots and lots of approaches. So let's take a step back, and I would like folks who are listening right now to kind of figure out your own approach to the Lotus Sutra. I knew this title because lotus was a very compelling word when I was growing up. There was a sports car called a Lotus, really fast, really expensive, really hard to keep tuned up. If you lost a tire, you probably had to call a specialist to come and put air back in your tire, special mechanic. Lotuses I knew were these wonderful flowers that grew in Asia. What else about lotuses? Well, they were considered, they had their thing. Roses have their thing, daisies have their thing. Lotuses, thing about lotuses was always their they grew above the mud. They were on tall, tall stems. That was what I knew about lotuses because I'd never seen one. Midwest, we didn't have lotuses. So it was only much later, actually, after I got to Gold Mountain Monastery and saw our teacher, Master Shren Hua, saw him and his approach to the Lotus Sutra, did I start to realize what's involved when you say Zhu Jing Zhi Wang, right? The king of sutras. What kings are, if you're ordinary, you don't approach the king very easily. In fact, I wasn't ready to come close to the Lotus Sutra as an entire text until I clean myself up, honestly speaking. Um, you don't get to walk in on the king and, lean against the kitchen counter and chat with him. You can't do that. You have to prepare yourself if you're going to get the focus, the attention of the king. You have to qualify, right? Well, the ordinary, I'm kind of interested in meditation and kind of not. Buddhist, somebody approaching Buddhism isn't ready for the Lotus Sutra. So later, after I had been cultivating for a while, I had an opportunity to be with Master Hua when he encountered a group of monks from China. And among the monks from China was one who was known as a cultivator among the various monks who were already a selected group of special individual Sangha members. And this elder, as we were what were we doing, waiting for the elevator, someone mentioned in the San Francisco airport, somebody mentioned that this elder cultivator from China recited the Lotus Sutra every single day and never missed. And I looked at Shifu, and he and the elder cultivator exchanged a glance. And in a single glance between my teacher and this elder monk, they shared some knowledge, experience, appreciation that I'm a bystander, and I saw two elder Sangha members exchange a glance. And maybe I shouldn't be peeking at the teacher, but of course you're peeking at your teacher. You want to follow your teacher. Shifu and this older monk, in that single glance about reciting the Lotus Sutra, there was a power, an energy, a light, a wisdom, a joy. I think that probably was the thing that struck me most was they were like two kids with their first taste of ice cream, right? That kind of lighting up. And I knew that that was not my experience, but the two of them knew something from their experience of cultivating according to the Lotus Sutra. The elder from his reciting it every day, and Shifu's biography, when he said, if you read the early Manchurian biography of Master Shen Hua, what does it say? It says, when he first met the Lotus Sutra, he read it. It's kind of a little graphic. It says, he read it until his eyes bled, meaning he couldn't stop reading it. He was so overjoyed when he first met the Lotus Sutra that he didn't want to stop reading it. So that's not an ordinary book, is it, friends? I mean, what is going on with the Lotus Sutra? My goodness. Okay. So there you go. That's kind of, wow. Came to my attention that the Fa Hua Jing, Miao Fa, Ben Hua Jing, there was something going on here that I should pay attention to. Now, let's shift our focus to history, Chinese Buddhist history. And there was a time in China when Buddhism was still Indian, right? Just thinking about Chinese Buddhist history, because Buddhism was originally Indian historically, right? And then it came to China, and it wasn't entirely satisfactory. It wasn't satisfying, right? People still looked back to China, to India, sorry. People looked back to India as the source of real Buddhism. So we had, for example, Master Xuanzang, right, who traveled back to India to get the texts because he felt like what they had in China was not the real deal. It wasn't the real thing. There was mistakes. There were, things to improve. So, for hundreds of years, people were struggling with the teachings that they got from India, and lots of questions, lots of concerns. Is it real? Are it incomplete? What if what they had was not complete, etc.? So there was a time when Buddhism had been in China long enough for a genuine Chinese Buddhism to emerge. And that was, by and large, some people would say Chan, some people would point to repentance ceremonies coming out, etc. Different questions. But a lot of people will tell you that when the Tiantai teachings emerged in China, that was when real Chinese Buddhism first arrived, first emerged. Okay. Now, the Tiantai teachings, with, and this is, we're painting in big, broad brushstrokes, but the Tiantai teachings were based largely on the Lotus Sutra. And the Tiantai teachings they're pointed at, they're not exclusively, but they were, if we had to pin it down in Chinese history, the person responsible for the emergence of the Tiantai teachings was Master Zhi Yi. And okay, I'm back. I'm going to share my screen now. Here we go. Here is where the Tiantai teachings, by and large, came into being. This is Guoqing Si, Guoqing Monastery. Notice it says Sui Dynasty, Ancient Monastery. This is the Sui Dai Gucha. This is outside of Hangzhou. It's 140 miles by car from Hangzhou in Zhejiang. This monastery has been there for how long? Well, it's been there since the Sui, which is before the Tang, which is to say 6th century. So here I am with Dharma Master Lai and other Dharma friends. Madalena, you can see, Guoqi, Liu Shige, Guoqing Monastery. There we are, entering the temple. And Guoqing Monastery has, I'm looking for one particular photo that I want to share with you. Okay, going in the gate. Here we are in the courtyard, Guoqing Monastery. Look at these ancient trees. Right? Can everybody, we've switched to my desktop. Can you all see? Those of you on phones may have a problem. Hope you can see these photos. This is the seat of, historically, we're going to go past some. Here's a plum tree. This is a Sui Dynasty plum tree. Now that is an ancient tree, still producing plums, which we've enjoyed. So a tree, okay, so if you use 2,000, 1,400, 1,600 years, 1,600 years old. Yeah. Yeah. There's some wisdom, right? Lord of the Rings, we had the Ents. Remember the Ents? Okay, we're getting there. One more. Let's see here. Here's a scene from inside Guoqing Temple, Guoqing Monastery. Shifu, when he was a young monk, traveled and stayed at Guoqing Temple, as have most of China's famous Buddhist monks at one time or another have lived Guoqing Monastery. Yep, yep. Okay, that's above Guoqing Monastery. I hope I can find, let's see here. Okay, here we are. Zhizhe Taiyuan. This is a temple, a branch temple of Guoqing Monastery that is above Guoqing Temple. You have to get out on the road. Hard to find. It is not developed. It's not a tourist temple. This is it says the stupa yard, stupa temple of Master Zhizhe, the wise one. And Master Zhizhe, we're going to do one more. The abbot of Guoqing Temple, Master Yunguan, said, if I had to pick a place in China that I considered to be holding the real spirit of the Mahayana, it would be Zhizhe Taiyuan, the stupa temple of Master Zhizhe. He says, he looked at me and said, don't you agree? This has the feel, he said. Yeah. So what are we talking about? Well, when, yeah, that'll do it. Okay, that's our picture break. Okay, back to the brain. Here we go. When you go to, let's okay, take a step back. What do we need to do? We missed our banjo opening. Let's listen to Guanyin Bodhisattva's name. Guanyin Bodhisattva, Guanyin Bodhisattva, Guanyin Bodhisattva, Guanyin Bodhisattva. Guanyin Bodhisattva, Guanyin Bodhisattva. That's a palate cleanser. My voice gets kind of tedious after a while, put people to sleep. So take a step back, look at the bigger picture. The Buddha, they say, over 49 years, spoke the Dharma over 300 different occasions. The Lotus, when it comes to the Lotus Sutra teachings, the tradition says that he is still speaking it. He never really stopped, which gives you a sense of the importance of what was taught in the Lotus Sutra. All right. So, of the Mahayana teachings, all the things the Buddha said, that's what we're looking at. The Lotus Sutra holds a very important place. Chinese Buddhists, over the years, once Buddhism became Chinese, okay, because if you go to India and say, tell me about the Lotus Sutra, the Theravada monks will say, I'm sorry, we're not trained in the Lotus Sutra. We don't know about it. The Mahayana monks will go, oh, Fa Hua Jing. Yes, it's deep, it's big, it's pure and holy. So, in between those extremes, what door do you go through? How do you get a handle on it? How do you get a staircase up to it, right? How do you find a ladder that'll carry you up to the Fa Hua Jing? We know it's special. We know it's profound. How do you approach it? Chinese Buddhists came up with what was called Panjiao. Panjiao is an intellectual way to approach not only the Lotus Sutra, but everything the Buddha taught. And when one begins a lecture series on the Fa Hua Jing, traditionally, according to the Tiantai Jiaoguan, the teachings of the Tiantai, which was China's first unique non-Indian contribution to Buddhism, they created this structure called the Panjiao. Master Zhizhe is associated with it, whether he himself was the monk who created it doesn't really matter. He is associated with it strongly. Master Zhizhe was a 6th century monk, 538, 597, and he divided the Buddhist teachings into the Wu Shi and the Ba Jiao. This is what is called Jiao Zong. This is the teaching school. And I have to say, there's a large number of people who will say, this is what I hate about Chinese Buddhism. People who will say that. Because if you're not interested in a intellectual, language-heavy approach, this is going to put you to sleep, right? So our teacher, Shifu, came to the West very aware of the shortcomings of Eastern systems, very interested in reforming the Dharma so that it would take root in Western soil. What did he do? Shifu was trained in the Tiantai Jiaoguan. If he simply repeated the way it was done in China, when there was no foundation in the West, Shifu would have lost everybody. Oh, Buddhism is that? I came to meditate. I'll go somewhere else, right? So what did he do? Well, he was faithful to the tradition. He gave us, in his explanation of the Fa Hua Jing, he gave us the Panjiao basics, the outline. He laid it out for us and respected it strongly, and then said, you all look it up. I gave it to you. Whether or not you pick it up is up to you. Okay. I want to say right now, if people are interested in Master Hua's commentary to the Fa Hua Jing, please go here. I'm going to put a link in our chat box. Okay, everybody found your chat box on your Zoom guy? There you go. CTTB USA. Okay, I gave that to Chun Yu. I'm going to give everybody. There we go. Put it to everybody. There it is. Got that? Everybody find your chat box? What you're going to find there is this. This is, I'll do it again. Sorry. I think I gave you the, one more time. There you go. Ah, got it. That's the right one. That'll take you to the start. Here is Shifu's explanation to the Fa Hua Jing, the whole thing. Here it is. Look at the contents. Isn't that nice? There you are. There is Master Hua's commentary. Okay, we're done. Thanks all for joining. No, Why listen to me when you can listen to Shifu? Oh my goodness. So, because Shifu would say, lazy. What's wrong? Why are you ate? You're going to eat today. Why don't you talk today? Okay, we want to speak 21st century Dharma in English. So, but here it is. That's Shifu's entire lecture series. If you go up to Buddha Dharma and go to sutra texts, you can get the sutra alone without the commentary. I think I'll give you that too. Let's see here. Yeah, here is one more. You'll find your chat box there. Here we go. There it is. That is sutra only. The this photograph with the photoshopped various figures on top. This is Vulture Peak. That's the actual present contemporary Vulture Peak. There it is right there. Thus I have heard at one time, right? So there, that's the Fa Jing. So what the Chinese did when they got to the Lotus Sutra, in order to like climb a ladder, climb a staircase, climb up Vulture Peak to get themselves ready to hear it, they turned to the mind and said, all right, here's how we approach it. There are 5 different periods of the Buddha's teachings. First is the Avatamsaka, Huayan Shi. Second is the Agama, Han Shi. Third is the Vaipulya, Fangguang Shi. Fourth is the Boro Prajna. Fifth is the what? The Fahua Nipan Shi. Okay. They divided it into 5 periods of time. Okay, what's going on? Then there are 8 different kinds of teachings. There are 4 contents, and then there are 4 methods. Storehouse, pervasive, separate, perfect, sudden, gradual, teaching, unfixed. There's milk products analogy. Okay, this is how people who have cows think about ways of dividing teachings. There's raw milk, there's cream, there's curds, there's butter and ghee. So Shifu gave us this, right? Anybody still awake? Right? So what is this? This is a profound, hallowed, traditional way to approach a sutra. Now, Shifu had the choice to, rip it up and innovate, and he didn't. Shifu gave us a traditional opening when he explained the Lotus Sutra at Gold Mountain Monastery in San Francisco in the 70s. Now, I had the same choice. Understand that I am not explaining the Fa Jing. I'm talking about a single chapter. But what I wanted to do with it for everybody was to point us back to the tradition. Because if we lose the tradition, oh my, we're cut adrift. We're a tree without roots. If we only unpack the tradition, we have over 100 folks listening right now. Next week, there will be 10 fewer. Following week, there will be 20 fewer, right? Finally, we only get diehards. Now, I have a story, and this, I think people can appreciate it this way. I was blessed to attend a lecture by Master Xianming Zhanglao. And Master Xianming was said to hold the current Tiantai teaching lineage. He was the lineage holder in our age. He was a very elderly monk. He was approaching 100. He wasn't quite 100 at the time. And Master Shenming was a great sutra speaker. He just loved the sutras. You could tell it when he just lit up around sutras. He had so much to give. Plus, he was a kind-hearted, fun, elderly sangha member. He was just a delight to be around. And you did the thing. You put your palms together, bowed to him, but he just he was so radiant. Just you felt better immediately just to be around him. And it was his turn to, it was sutra lecture time. And I forget what he was lecturing on. It might have been the Vajra Sutra or something. And I was thrilled to get the chance to sit in because I want to do it better. I want to do it right. I want to be a good sutra lecturer in the tradition. I want to get it, do it the way it should be done. So I'm with my notebook ready to take notes, sitting to one side as a guest monk. And so I noticed in the audience, there was a big hall, and there were 7 people in the chairs. There were 100 chairs on the floor. There were 93 empty chairs. I was to one side. And of the 7 people, 2 of them were children who'd been brought in by their grandparents. There was Gong, there was Popo, and they were wearing their precept robes, but Popo was already asleep. And there of the 3, so there were 4, and you could see that the other 4, these were the kind of faithful Buddhist laymen who always showed up, So it's like, where is everybody? And so the time came, Master Shenming came in, and he had his 2 young acolytes, 2 disciples with him, and they came in, and they marched in. They had been out to Qingshi to request the teacher, and they brought him in slowly, very slowly. Came down. He made 3 perfect bows at the host's bowing cushion. Then he came up and they lit incense, and while he was offering up incense, they started the Xiangzan, the incense praise. Launched into it. It was beautiful. And, the bells, drum. And Master Shenming slowly went up correctly to the left to circle around clockwise, got in his seat, and had the paraphernalia. They're still chanting. And he arranged his robe, and they have all these paraphernalia that you need, such as if you touch your face while you're lecturing, you need a wet, damp cloth to wipe your hand because your hand is not clean anymore. You can't touch the sutra after having, scratched or something, scratched your ear. So everything was there, and the incense was curling, and put his palms together, and there, everyone, the 4 elderly the lay people who are still awake were bowing out there. And then, okay, so that's the praise. Then what? Next on the program is a praise to the sutra. And the monks have to start out, they praise the sutra. So another 5-7 minutes goes by. Then there's the protocols before you begin. You have to, do the Dharma request, and on and on. And I was watching Master Shenming, and he was, I don't want to say impatient, but he had so much to give. He was so full of knowledge and wisdom and tradition, but he couldn't start talking because all of the protocol, all of the formal sutra lecture preparation that had to be done. And I could just sense his, I don't want to say frustration, that doesn't sound right, but Master Shenming couldn't start because they hadn't finished with the intro yet. All right. And so finally, the young monks are, and they're doing their job. This is the tradition. This is the way it's always been done in the Chinese tradition. So finally, it was his turn. And with his palms together, he said, "Go away, Ching Shan Sang, shall I wei da zhong." You've all respectfully requested the mountain monk to come down to turn the magical, the wonderful, unbreakable Dharma wheel, right? And he started his speech, and he had to go through his go away. He had to thank the donors. He had to respond to the conditions that had allowed him to come. And another 5 minutes passed. And at this point, it dawned on me. I realized why the hall was empty, and why this wonderful national, international treasure, the patriarch of the Tiantai teachings, why he was basically alone in the hall. And it had to do with the weight of tradition, crushing against mere humanity, right? Ordinary folks like us. And I appreciated Master Hua. What did Shifu do? Shifu gave us the Tiantai Jiao Guan with what? Here we are. What do we have? We've got the Ba Jiao, 4 types of teachings, kind of like 4 types of medicine, 4 methods of teaching, like 4 methods of applying the medicine. The Wu Zhong Xuan Yi, the 5 profound meanings, where you explain the title, 7 classes of titles: person, dharma, analogy. The lotus is dharma and analogy. We have to identify the body of the teachings, clarify the meanings of the teaching, discuss its functions, determine the teaching mark. Okay. So I felt such appreciation for Master Shenming and for Shifu, Shen Gong Shangren, who both came from this line of Mahayana Dharma that included, that was produced, that was given birth by Guoqing Monastery and Master Zhizhi, right? There we are. Here at Guoqing Si, Tiantai Shan, in the 6th century. 6th century. What else did you encounter today that came down from the 6th century? Well, redwoods. The oldest redwoods were saplings back in 600, right? So 500 something. Incredible. How do you respond when you have something this ancient, this lofty, this venerated, sacred, you could say? It's been part of human history for 1,600 years. You choose Master Shenming's choice. He was the patriarch. He had no choice. He had to, despite his joy in sharing Dharma, he had to sit there until they were done singing, right? And then we have Shifu's response, which was to say, anybody have any questions about what I just said? If you don't have any questions, I'm going to start asking you what you understand about what I just said, right? Shifu kept the form alive. He gave us, if you look back at CTDV USA, go look for yourself. What did Shifu actually say? Shifu gave us, in his early lectures, the outlines of Panjiao, of the Tiantai Jiao Guan, but he didn't drown under the waves of the Tiantai Jiao Guan. And I could see that the patriarch, the elder, that patriarch that's patriarchal. We have a problem with that word these days. Right? The current lineage holder, okay, he, right? What do? How much do you look back at the tradition? How much do you innovate it so that any contemporary person will want to wrap his mind, her mind around it and pick it up, right? So, oh my goodness, what a challenge to keep it alive. Mostly the Chinese tradition, the Chinese habit, cultural habit is to, well, until 1949 when things got ripped up in China. But mostly you honor tradition. The result of that is what? People don't wait. They ignore, they overlook, they dismiss the Jiaozhong, the teaching school, right? It's just too slow. We have a world burning down around our ears. We have a world drowning. We have a world infested by virus. How can we wait for the niceties of the praise of the Lotus Sutra being sung entirely before we, nah. People just say, sorry, we have Netflix, we have Hulu, we have entertainments with things exploding and fireballs and fast car chases through the streets of San Francisco. Who's going to want to wait, right? Shifu did his best to innovate the Tiantai Jiaoguan. And mind you, we haven't even touched the Xian Shou Zong. There's a second school inside the Jiaozhong, the teaching school, that focused on the Huayan Jing, the Avatamsaka Sutra, which is my particular deepest interest, you could say. And that's the Xianshou teachings, a parallel to, not the rival, but a parallel to the Tiantai teachings, Heavenly Vista, Tiantai. So, oh man, more of the same, right? Which is what? Boring. Nobody wants to listen. Okay. So Shifu innovated, and he gave us in his next generation, he gave us permission to innovate further as long as we acknowledge and respect and investigate the Tiantai Jiaoguan, the Panjiao systems. So that's what I've done today. The lecture time is already over. I wanted to introduce people to the Panjiao, the discriminating teachings scheme, the tradition, the framework, right? The structure, so that we can go beyond it and get to the miao, 不可说, right? 不可思议, the wonderful parts of the Lotus Sutra that would motivate Shifu to exchange a glance with the elder who recited the Lotus Sutra every day. How long does it take? About 7 hours. If you do the Fa Jing every day, you're putting up a lot of hours every single day. So the Lotus Sutra is quite wonderful. Master Jirja, our hero, the monk who is attributed, to whom the Tiantai teachings are attributed, explained the word miao, miao fa lian hua jing, the first word of the title, for 90 days. They said, and he wasn't done. But in deference to his audience, the fact that there was an entire sutra waiting and he was just back on the first word of the title, he explained it in 90 days. And I guarantee you, only the oldest of the popos went to sleep. Everybody else was at the edge of their seats, waiting to hear what was coming next from the wondrous Dharma, Lotus Flower Sutra. To conclude today's lecture, I want to run my next vision of Shifu regarding the Lotus Sutras in a story that I witnessed when Dharma Realm Buddhist University had its very first graduation. It was the first 毕业典礼, first graduation of Fajie Dashi, right? Dharma Realm Buddhist University. And everybody had their mortar boards in the shape of a lotus, very beautiful. Golden cloth mortar boards, that's the hat you wear, the graduation hat, right, with a tassel. And our gowns and our robes, the monks wore their robes, and academics wore their gowns. And Susan Rounds was there with her son, Nathaniel. And Nathaniel, David and Susan's boy, Nathaniel was a blonde little towhead. He was a blonde-headed kid. And I think I looked just like Nathaniel when I was his age. Nathaniel might have been 6. Was he 6? I think he was younger than 6 because Shifu picked him up and set him on Shifu's eating table in the center of the Wuguan Zaitang. And he said, I don't remember Nathaniel's Dharma name. He said, Nathaniel, can you recite for us? And Nathaniel said, the wonderful Dharma Lotus Flower Sutra. Thus I have heard at one time. And Nathaniel Rounds started in reciting in English the Fa Hua Jing, the Lotus Sutra. And Shifu was beaming. His smile just filled the Wuguan Zaitang. It was a moment. I'll never, ever forget it. I was impressed. Here was a little guy. I think he might have been 5 and big enough that, small enough that Shifu could pick him up. But he stood on top of Shifu's lunch table there in the dining room and recited the first words of the Lotus Sutra in English. And I thought, the tradition has made it across the sea and across the ages. Right? Okay. Thank you all for joining. What have I done today? That's as much of the Panjiao as I'm going to give everybody. So when people say, well, how does Xuanhua Shangren's next generation explain the Lotus Sutra? You can say they acknowledge and respect the Tiantai Jiaoguan and they moved on. All right? Is that good enough? Have I honored it sufficiently? We're only, mind you, doing the medicine mantra. We're only doing the understand that we're only doing not that. That's the Vajra Sutra. That's the Fa Hua Jing, Pu Man Ping. We're only doing one chapter. We're not doing the whole thing. If I was doing the whole Lotus Sutra, we'd have to have about 2 or 3 years to go through it adequately, right? We'd have to buckle our seatbelts, strap in for the long run. So we're not. We're doing only one chapter. The Pu Man Ping, chapter 25 of the Lotus Sutra. Question, have you considered, let's see, have you considered adding some sutra lectures? I do. 我在讲华严经实地品，就是可以去YouTube 有中文的翻译Is anybody, maybe Yihuan or Cliff, can somebody type in where folks can find the Chinese of my Huayan lectures? And we had a question from Prajna, which was, what is the Chinese of Panjiao? Here we go. 1 second. There we go. Let's get it on the bottom here. Okay, Panjiao. Pan is, here's the Pan. Jiao. There it is. Probably something like discriminating among teachings, something like that, or the systematic teachings, something like that. Panjiao. That's the generic name. That's the way to say how the Chinese approached the entirety of what the Buddha spoke, right? So that includes the 5 teachings, the 8 periods, the 5 periods, the 8 teachings, etc. Okay, so yeah, something like that. That'll get you. Okay, if you want to look it up further, if you want to go to Wikipedia, go to Tian Tai teachings. That'll get you there. Or is it Tian? Tian Tai? Tian Tai teachings. There you go. Look this one up in on Wikipedia, and it'll get you to Panjiao. All right. The analytical method. Yeah, that's good. I like that. Yeah, there we go. That's good. Analytical method, because you analyze what the Buddha said. You don't bow to it. You don't pick up on its magical side, right? So, yeah, it's a different approach, a different way of approaching the teachings. We have innovated it to include banjos. Zhang Lihua says classification of Buddhist teaching. Oh, wait, stop that banjo. Stop me before I play again. Classification of teachings. Thank you, Zhang Lihua. Classification of teachings, Buddhist teachings. And yeah, Panjiao, classification of the Buddhist teachings. There you go, Praj, I'll go with that. All right. There we go. That's a good place to start. Transfer the merit using a mantra, not a transference. This is a response to the pandemic, which continues to rage and is on its 4th surge with the various variants. Recite this mantra, keeps your spirits high, actually sends out a vibration that puts things back where they belong. See you all next week. Thank you for joining. Om Namo Bhagavate Saja Guru Madhurya Prabharajaya Tathagata Arhate Samyak Sambuddhaya Asaje Asaje Ate Swaha. Thank you all for joining, everyone. See you next week. Stay healthy, stay well. Aum Tofo.